Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Well, welcome back to the WorryFree Retirement, and I am Tony Walker, and we have a very special guest in the studios here on this beautiful July 16th, 2025, all the way from Bowling Green, Kentucky. That's right, folks. Let's get a drum roll. Our very own Connie Forney. Good morning, Connie.
Hello there. It's good to be here.
And I appreciate you so much coming up. I've got to set the stage. People might be going, wait a minute, I thought Connie Forney had retired, which you are retired. We'll get into that in a minute. But the graves we're in, you know, Bob and Marge, they always thought so much of you. We had an interview recently, and I think you caught it on TV, and they brought up Connie, and you kind of jokingly said, well, Tony, I'd love to get on there sometime and talk about retirement. Well, what do you do what's Tony Walker going to do when you ask to be on the TV show?
Well, I knew if I offered, it would probably be accepted, and I think I immediately said, but I'll probably regret offering just as soon as I hit send on this emails.
Because I replied immediately.
Immediately. Yes, let's do it.
So before we talk about your retirement, I'd kind of like to go down memory lane just a little bit. We met back in church years and years ago. You were, I think, even kind of painting houses on the side. Kind of describe what was going on in your life back then. This was probably 25 years ago plus.
Well, I was in between. I had been a computer programmer at a company in Bowling Green, and I had stepped away from that just to sort of raise my young boys. And so when I was painting on the side, they were in school. And, you know, I would stay a little busy at that, but maybe not enough. And I got to a point to where I thought while they're in school, I'd love to just find somewhere to work, even if it's just 3 or 4 hours a day. And so about that time, you know, at church, you know, I was approached by actually Susan, your wife, and said, would you ever give thought to that? And I said, actually, I've been thinking about trying to find something like that.
And it was funny. We talked, and he said, yeah, that'd be fine. And I said, well, Connie, let's do this, you know. Maybe have a 30-day probationary period, make sure it's something you really want to do, you know, and you said, I think, well, what are we going to be doing? I said, well, back then, you know, we had typewriters and all that, so just light typing and filing. So after the first 30 days, I got to tell this story on Connie because it is funny, because you know me and that phone, I'm very picky on the phone, and remember I kept correcting you on the phone. So at the end of the 30 days, I said, well, Connie, what do you think? Do you remember what you told me about that phone? You weren't real pleased with mine.
I just think I remember saying something like, well, you sure are picky on the phone.
Luckily, you stayed around, but then it just kept getting busier and busier. So kind of give a quick timeline of what happened with the firm back then.
Well, as my boys kept aging and getting older in the school system and I was able to stay longer, my days stretched into longer days. And finally, I think early in the beginning, we were just open, you know, until 3 o'clock. So, you know, that certainly was good for me. But then we kept extending that and I kept working longer, and it just, over time, just kept going into more and more full-time until it was
full-time,
very full-time. And
then we've got on the monitor beside us here, we've got Heather Hughes and Lee Moore back then. So we think that was in 2007. We had several different staff members kind of come and go, but kind of give a feel for what we were doing back there. And I want to say hungry for business, but they were kind of lean times. I mean, tell a little bit about what was going on roughly in 2007 back then.
Well, you would do the seminars and we would get a lot of our business that way.
Oh, we did the dinner seminars back then. Remember that? You loved that. Do you remember you go around the tables and try to get appointments?
Yeah, that was the good old days. But no, so we didn't have nearly the business back then that we do now. So you were more hungry, I guess, for, you know, people that came in the door, and you just would do anything it took to sort of, you know, get them on as clients and whatever. And not that there was any major push, but still, you know, you needed those clients back in the earlier days. And so, but it was just the three of us in the office and working as hard as we could work with 3 people. We were busy back then, but nothing like I think the organization has grown to now with so many
Yeah, and when
staff.
was your official retirement date? Remind me.
It was in 2023, August 24th of 23. So it's been almost 2 years now.
So, and I know you may have seen this picture, but Derek, if you can put up the staff now, it looks a little different now today, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And of course, we've gone back because I kept all the different staff as we transitioned. And it's sort of funny to go from that picture of 3 all the way down to where you get to this stage.
You've worked a lot of these staff. Some of them are new, but
yes,
yeah, so
most of them.
Yeah. And I would say this, and I mean this sincerely, if you hadn't hung in there with me, and we had continued to work, who knows if we'd ever made it to this. So again, looking back, I just so much appreciate how you just
appreciate that.
hung in there with me, and you worked so hard and so diligent and very loyal.
Connie, I loved my job with you. I would have never left if it wasn't that I just wanted more flexibility in my life and to just sort of do something different. And, as I got into closer to retirement age, I just wanted to have, I've laughed about this and told my husband, I want at least 2 or 3 years, if not more, with you working and me staying at home. And so, but it was the best job possible. I always loved working there, and I would have never left if it weren't just for wanting more flexibility to come and go and do what I wanted to do.
Well, that's nice of you to say. Now let's kind of segue into your retirement. So it's been a couple of years now. Describe your personality, because, we mainly work with savers. You basically have said, Tony, I'm that saver. But yeah, what is your personality like financially? And then seeing how we handled money all those years, 20 years you were with me basically. And now that you're in retirement, to kind of describe your retirement to people.
Well, I don't know that I'd ever thought too much about my personality as far as financial personality until we sort of came up, internally, or you did, about helping savers worry less about money. And so that just sort of resonated with me. I am definitely a saver. I just can't stand the thought of money that is accumulated over time not being there. Now, I want growth on my money, but yet I just will not risk it to where I'm up and down, way up and down. So that's my personality. And so I guess, I worked for you right at 20 years, just shy of 20 years. And there was never a time that I worked for you that I wasn't just totally sold out on the type of financial planning that we did for people, the saver mentality, trying to, so people wouldn't run out of money during retirement. And I was just always so confident that what we were doing internally was a really good thing for people that would identify themselves as savers like me.
Yeah, that's well said. So could you give us a little snapshot of how retirement's been? Of course, you still got Charlie at work, so now you've had that 2 years. How would you describe retirement?
Well, it's wonderful. It takes a little while to just sort of get in your groove. I started out becoming an avid walker in my neighborhood. I read all the time. I'm just a reader. When I walk, I listen to podcasts, the true crime stuff. That's sort of me. I'm fascinated with the court system. Because of that, somebody suggested that I be a CASA volunteer. That's a court-appointed special advocate for children. So I do that in my community, just for children that are in abusive or neglect or different addictive situations that are removed from the home. And then the courts want an extra set of eyes and ears to just look out for the children. So that's been a good thing for me, since I've always been fascinated with the court system anyway. So I just, you just find ways to spend your time. But if there's a day where, I've been at it, I'm just tired, then I just sleep in. And I always said when I worked, there'd be a real rainy day, and I'd be like, oh, just such a good day to be able to sleep in, and I never could, and now I can, so.
Well, we appreciate everything you did at Tony Walker Financial so much. We're going to take a quick break because I don't know if you know this, we're going to have a special guest in the studio here in Louisville, so you can stick around for a few more minutes, can't you?
Sure.
Okay, you want to stick around for this, folks. Hang in there. This is the Worry Free Retirement. We'll be right back. Our client spotlight today features Mr. Roy Ice here at the WorryFree Retirement Studios. Mr. Ice, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about your background in terms of your work years.
I worked about a little more than 30 years at Ford Motor Company and for the United Auto Workers.
And when did you retire?
In 2023.
And I know you've been with us a couple of years now. When did you begin working with Tony Walker Financial?
It was shortly after retirement, probably January of 23.
And what prompted you back then to contact us?
It was another coworker.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, the coworker said how Tony Walker had been able to help her navigate the 401k waters. She spoke highly of the organization, and she said, Roy, it is worth a look. And I looked, and I liked, and I joined in.
And do you mind me asking a little bit about your past? I know you lost your spouse some time ago.
Yeah.
How has that transition been? How would you explain even the financial and everything else that goes along with losing a spouse?
Well, for 30 years, my wife, Julie, handled everything. Everything from every bill, every savings account, everything. And I was a complete fish out of water. I had no idea how to balance a checkbook or anything. I just knew that I had a pension coming in, and I knew how much money was going out. And I thought that that's the way it was going to be. I was very worried before I came to Tony Walker.
Being employed under a 401k, I'm assuming you had somebody there helping you manage your 401k, didn't you?
Yeah, well, the company had resources available to manage those for us. It was completely elective. It was fee-based. But other than someone managing that, you really don't have any more information than someone who isn't being managed. You don't have that information. So you have to put hope and faith and trust into the people that are doing it, that your market value or whatever your holdings increase in value. But I think at the end of the day, it just, to me, I lacked those resources. And then that's what Tony Walker offered me, that the resources were there. The books were written. The proof was in the pudding, and everything was laid out for me. And anybody can read through it and just know that it's the right thing to do.
And I think you were under the impression, like a lot of workers, that just because you were under the age of 60 and wanted to retire, that really that 401k, to your understanding, was kind of off limits. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it's kind of ingrained into your head. If you hit it before 59 and a half, you're going to get a 10% penalty from the feds. It was eye-opening when I came here and learned that, I can avoid that penalty and draw and subsidize my pension and live an even more healthier retirement.
So I was going to say, how's it been since you retired? Is cash flow, like it says, cash flow been good? Has it surprised you how little it really needs to get along in retirement?
What surprises me is that my concern that I had on finances went away. I don't focus on the finances. I know that if I have one of life's curves are thrown at me, I need a washer and dryer, or, I need some work on my vehicle. I know that it's there. I know that I'm not going to stress out and have to, save a couple months or whatever to get it done.
And speak to people who are under the age of 60. There's a lot of changes going on in society, Mr. Ice. What would you say to somebody that, let's say, is in that 55 to 60-year-old age range, and they really just assume they cannot retire? What would be your suggestion to them?
Well, I would say before you make that your final decision, that you at least get all the information that you can. I think Tony Walker Financial is a great resource for that give you a better understanding of if you can, if you can't, because there are so many things that we just don't know about. We just don't know about them, Tony. We work, we put money in the 401k, and then we think when we're 59 and a half, it's going to be there and we'll draw on it. There's a lot of information that the normal, regular working Joe doesn't know. And that's where you guys come in.
Well, Mr. Ice, we appreciate your business, and thank you so much for your trust and confidence in Tony Walker Financial.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you very much.
Looking for an advisor you can trust? Schedule your free phone call with Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 1-877-499-9255.
Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Well, welcome back to the WorryFree Retirement, and in the studio still with us is our own Connie Forney, 20-year tenured employee of Tony Walker Financial, former employee, now retired, happily retired.
Yes.
And I know you made the long trip up here by yourself from Bowling Green to our Louisville studios, but I don't know if you knew this, traipsing close behind you with somebody else, and through the magic of the Star Trek technology that is now available to us in the studios, we're going to beam in a special guest. So turn over your chair here and watch what happens, Connie. What do you think?
It's Heather, my work buddy. I'm excited.
I thought you'd get a kick out of that. Now you might be wondering, wait a minute, why is Heather on the set? I want to have some fun, gang, because, we've talked a little bit more about the seriousness of starting in the firm, and you came first, and Heather came along. I want to have some fun, talk about some of the crazy antics and ideas I've had over the years. Some people may watch this show and they see where we are now, but we had an interesting journey to get to this point. So Heather, very briefly, how did you find out about Tony Walker Financial?
Well, this is really going to date me and how long I've been here, but I answered an ad in the newspaper. So it was for, I think, a financial research coordinator. Coordinator was a big word for you back then. Everything was a coordinator.
I think that was the big term back then. I must have picked that up at a conference. It sounded official.
Right.
And then a little bit how quickly things began to change and evolve. And of course, when I landed the gig in Louisville on the big TV station, that helped. But a little bit about what was going on back then and how we had to evolve the firm into where we are now.
Right. Well, as I was hired as a financial research coordinator, I had an accounting background, and I've worked there probably 2-3 weeks, maybe, having no idea what you're going to do with me. But it did start evolving. You started meeting with clients. You had the TV show, the live TV show that really kind of propelled everything, I think. And then soon we started really working with looking at the plan for retirement and building out retirement plans by hand and things like that. But it really resonated with clients, and I think that helped move us forward as well.
And Connie, do you remember when Heather came on board and yeah.
Well, I just remember, she mentioned the first 2 or 3 weeks. And so, you had clients with a lot of tax questions and different questions that you didn't necessarily know the answers to, and you'd have to come back maybe and research it. So we decided we needed a research coordinator. And so Heather comes on board, and, now it's just funny because she's fiduciary, she's an advisor at the firm, she's just so integral to the firm. But back in those days, the first few weeks, she would just be like, what did you all mean, your research? Or,
what am I supposed to research? Yeah.
So anyway, it's just funny looking back at, what it was like in the beginning, trying to get her feet underneath. And
yeah, and Connie would like, trust me, we'll find something for you to do. And,
And how many times have we done that, though, with staff? Think about that.
I think that's really kind of the course of action. We look for quality people that we feel like can learn and adapt. And it's like, we're going to figure out your place. It's a lot of times we'll hire for a specific role and then it turns into something else. But, I think you're really good at ferreting out people's strengths and what they're good at and what they like to do.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Now, okay, of all the crazy things I've tried over the years, because I've had some whoppers. I mean, folks, I've done some things that just didn't work out. What would you say are 1 or 2 things that I tried to implement, especially back in those days, that you look back now and go, what were you thinking, Tony?
Well, you were doing you were getting a lot of outside coaching and some marketing people, and we would have a lot of staff meetings between the 3 of us, the big staff meeting with, us right here. And, but I remember, I think it was probably about my 3rd weekend, and you had a consultant in, and he was talking about doing an annual perfecting your walk for clients.
Yeah, because I'd written the book, Perfecting Your Walk. Okay.
And then he's like, you could do this. This could be your business. And, you wouldn't even need to do financial planning. And I'm looking, it's like, what have I gotten myself into?
And Connie, the practical one, yeah, what was your reaction to that, Connie? You probably
I think I asked him, so we're throwing all of our eggs in one basket and having a big community walk for people that are getting close to retirement age, and then they're going to pour into the office all year long based on this
walk into the office. They can't run in.
All
they have
the
to
money
walk.
that Tony is going to pour toward marketing is going toward this one walk. And so that didn't go very
And I think y'all probably talked me out of that. It's been good that y'all were so integral. Okay, you got to name something else. Anything else?
Well, and that's one thing, though. I think it's probably attributed to your success is that you were never scared to fail. You would try multiple things. It's always kind of refreshing that you're willing to not just stick to the status quo. But I don't know, there's so many. So,
And that's a good point, though, because you always wanted to stay ahead of the industry or the financial world and trying new things and looking out for new products, just sort of where the world was headed as far as financial things. And because of that, it's where you are today because of your ability or desire or to try new things, and just they work or they don't. We'll move on.
so, I really feel like we were kind of the three integral components of really launching Tony Walker Financial, because you really had a lot of faith in us and, for us to kind of take it on and move forward with everything. And it's always going to be that way for me. I miss you. I do. But I really feel like, we were kind of the core to the really beginning of the growth. And
I would say that to our audience, anybody thinking about starting a business, and I told Connie in the last segment, I can assure you I would never have gotten to this point without you all. And I think hiring people in a business, you've got to get good people on the front end. I really do believe that. Anything else peculiar maybe or interesting about working at Tony Walker Financial?
well, I think kind of going back to my initial interview, of course, I called you Mr. Walker, which I feel very funny
That
now.
went out the door really quick too, didn't it, Connie? What
we
happened
left
to
that
Mr.
behind
Walker?
pretty quickly. But during that interview, and I had been home with the kids for a while, so it was like this was a big jump, a big leap of faith for me because I was entering the workforce again. But you had a book just happened to be on the table that you were reading, and I had just finished it. And I was like, this is a good sign that this is probably where I need to be, that I'm going into a company where the owner, clearly has a strong faith. And, that was very important to me. So it gave me a lot of solace to make that huge change in lifestyle from stay-at-home mom to re-entering the workforce and to a place that I felt safe and comfortable.
I appreciate you saying that. And I know even sometimes people even today say, why do you put that Bible segment thing on the end of the shows? And I just felt compelled years ago to do that back when I had the Your Money Matters and have never stopped doing that. Of course, we don't push our faith on our staff and all that or even on our clients, but I'm like you. I think it's important to share your faith, especially if you're proud of it and thankful to have it. So I don't think I remember that incident coming up and didn't know that you noticed the book, but I'm glad you did. And maybe God orchestrated a little bit of that.
I totally believe that. Absolutely.
And Connie, I know you're a strong woman of faith. What have you been doing in retirement? Have you changed any of your study habits now that you've got a little more time?
Well, I certainly have more time to do it. And 2 or 3 years ago, my husband and I read the Bible through chronologically. So it's different than I had done before. You might have you'd start out in Genesis and then you jump to Job and, just the way that things actually, the time frames. And so this year I embarked on something my own. I came across, it's called the Bible Recap. But it takes you through chronologically again, maybe 3 or 4 chapters a day. But what I love about this one is I have this thick book that's got 2 pages of her commentary. So after I've read the section for the day, then I've got a couple of pages of someone explaining to me what I just read. That's just sort of been a game changer for me. It's just about halfway through, and I'm sure next year I'll just start right back up January 1 doing it over. So I've always been someone who wanted to understand and tie in the Bible more and more, and I just never did feel like I did the right thing in order to get there. And it's just been a really nice thing. So every day I try to, if I miss, I do 2 days in a row, but it's called the Bible Recap.
I'm sure Aaron can put that up. That's kind of cool. Heather, anything you want to share in terms of what's going on in your world and faith? And even, I know you got kids getting married. Has that changed your perspective a little bit?
I'm getting, people think, kids getting married, you're losing your son, your daughter, but I have just been really blessed. And I love, both of my kids are getting married this year. And I've just welcomed the new additions to our family. And I feel really blessed that they are there. And, good spouses, good matches for my kids. So it's been great. Wedding planning is a little bit of a challenge, but the outcome is just amazing.
And somebody else has a wedding coming up this
I
year.
do. In November, our oldest son is getting married, so we're really looking forward to that.
And not to get too mushy or hokey here on the whole faith thing, but speak to that because I've had clients who are strong Christians, and we've lost a lot of clients. I mean, we had 67 death claims last year. I do think sometimes people feel assured of knowing where we are in our faith and helping people deal, I mean, with their retirement money, but also those end-of-life issues that come up. I know, Heather, you're seeing some of that now.
Oh, yes. I think I had 2 calls yesterday of loved ones telling passing of their parents or spouses, and it's a difficult time, obviously. And, I think we try to handle the loss with as much compassion as we possibly can and understand that they need someone to lean on, that maybe has a stronger faith that, hopefully that they share with us.
And I know we've had even a lot of females lately with losing spouses at a very young age. Very, very, very difficult times indeed. Well, I guess as we kind of close out the show, I did want to throw it back to you just briefly, Connie. And, now that you look at your life, working at Tony Walker Financial, you helped so many people of our clients over those years. Now you're retired. How does that look like to you financially, and how has all that you've learned and exposed yourself to, how's that translate into you and Charlie's life right now?
Well, I mentioned earlier that, I'm a saver, and that so everything we did while I worked there and that you're currently doing, still doing, just resonates with me as far as just safeguarding for the future. And that's just sort of what my husband and I did over time is invest. We're clients of yours now, so I'll still be coming to those client events. But we just, we're clients, and I'm a firm believer in the guarantees of the annuities. We have the income annuity. We have a couple of fixed annuities that, when the interest rates were higher, and I think they're still pretty high, probably close to what ours has. But I went ahead and took out some fairly long-term fixed annuities that are gaining good interest. I never have to worry about what the market's doing. And, over time, if you look and you have the fixed annuity for 5, 8, 10 years, and you look at how much it's going to actually grow without going down, and, one of ours is 5.65%, and that's a 10-year. And I looked at what that money was going to grow. It met every need I knew that I ever needed. And so just a firm believer in being a client, and just feel like the retirement years are secure because of that. And so,
well, not only, it sounds like, thank you so much for being a wonderful staff member and contributing so much to Tony Walker Financial, but thank you for being a client. We appreciate it. Appreciate having you both on. I'm glad we were able to beam up Heather and bring her into the studio. I don't know if we can get you back, Heather. So we better close down and see if Derek and Aaron can figure out how to get you back. You may be stuck here. I'm sorry. So
okay.
But thanks again. Folks, you're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. If we can be of help to you, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started. I'll be happy to talk to you by phone about our services, or call us anytime at 877-499-9255. We'll see you next week.